Here we are inside the new loft. This is the corridor which runs down the outside of every section. The first two sections that we'll be looking at are the two breeding sections. We have bigger nest boxes in these new sections compared to in the original loft. We think that this will help the birds when there are two nest bowls in the box, giving them more space to care for the youngsters and more room for them to move about when treading for the next round of eggs. At the moment, the nest boxes are partially closed off, so the pigeons can use these as perches. These can easily be opened up into nest boxes by folding up the fronts that you see here now to open up to make a full nest box. We have the floors partially grilled, and we clean these out once a year. The area in front of the nest boxes is cleaned on a regular basis so we don't get a build-up of muck in front of the nest boxes. This section currently houses stock cocks that are going through the moult. And this section is currently housing stock hens that are also going through the moult. Moving on down the corridor, we're now looking at one of the young bird sections. As you can see, these have all got individual perches, and each section holds around about 60 birds. We can hold around about 120 birds for sale, including pigeons that we want to keep for ourselves for next year breeding. These perches are constructed so that the droppings drop down the back of the box and out the back of the perches onto the floor without getting each youngster dirty. Again, this is partially grilled, which is cleaned out once a year, but the areas under the perches are cleaned on a regular basis. Every section has a drinker and feeder, also minerals and grit are given to the birds every day. Here we can see our ventilation system in this loft. We have a ventilation ridge running right from end to end. We have a vent system that we can open and close if we need to close it down in the winter. As you can see here, the birds have plenty of space to fly out into the apiary. This gives them good exercise as they can get up a reasonable amount of wing speed before they have to perch outside. It's a nice big area for all the birds to be able to get out and enjoy the weather. As you can see here, we can close the windows right down so that the birds can be locked in or locked out, depending on the situation. The bar you see across the middle of the window is a roll bar. That's to stop the birds from perching on the window and getting too much muck down the outside, just to try and keep the place a little bit tidy. Here we see the cocks, exactly the same design and the exact same number of perches. These are all pigeons for sale. Hopefully these will be some of the birds that will be going to Blackpool this year. Now you can see the individual breeding sections. At the moment we have some of them opened up ready for when we've got spare hens to move over. But at the correct time of the year, as you'll see down the end, we have space for each pair to have their own breeding section. They can come out into the corridor and move down into the aviary, and we use the aviary on a rotation system. So one pair gets aviary for one day and another pair another day, and so on. But at the moment we just have two old birds that are finishing off youngsters. We thought that the checker cock, the ace pigeon, was not fertile, but has fertiled 3 youngsters in this section this year. The cock you now see was with a 15-year-old hen that we obviously wanted to make sure that they were definitely their youngsters, and to give her enough space so that she didn't get messed about when the cock was treading. We've managed to get 4 rounds off of her and have had 3 successful youngsters from her. Again, the ventilation system down here is exactly the same, but we can close off these sliding doors to either make them into one big area or into 5 or so individual breeding sections. Here we have the old original stock loft. Looking down through the aviaries, you can see that the birds have a reasonable amount of space outside. There is enough space for all the birds to come out into the aviaries. Here we have our feed store. We have a couple of bins just to store odd bags of food in, and the main grey feed bin contains the feed we are using 90% of the time. At the moment we have just a resting mix in there, the cheapest mix we can get hold of, just whilst the birds are finishing off their moult and waiting to be paired in the wind. Here we have the corridor to the old original breeding loft. As you can see, similar to the previous one, except this is lined with windows that we can open or close depending on how much ventilation we want to give. The ventilation system in here is different. We have a wire ceiling up to a ventilation ridge, but we found that this is difficult to keep clean and to maintain tidy, so we decided that we ought to change this system from this, what you see here, to what we have now in the new loft. Here also we have grills along the front of the loft to allow ventilation to come in at the bottom. As you can see, the birds can exit out through a pop hole, not like the new loft where they have a big window to fly in and out of. This we hope we will be changing, and we'll have a nice big window for them to fly in and out of, the same as what we have next door. These 2 sections you're looking at are housing breeding cocks, which are now in the moult. Again, in these sections you can see that the floor is partially grilled. We're going to fill in underneath the nest boxes, as this area is a bit of a waste of space, and also each year we have pigeons go under there trying to rear youngsters, which makes our life a bit more difficult. So hopefully we're going to close these off and make them into areas we can store the nest bowls for each section. We're now looking at a section that is housing hens. And the last section also houses hens. As you can see, every section is constructed exactly the same. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this tour of our stud. I hope you found it interesting and informative. I will hopefully be putting up other videos later on as we go through our pairing up and breeding seasons. So hopefully there will be more to look forward to. Hope to see you then. Goodbye.